7297. That's 1-800-558-7297. Again, 1-800-558-7297.
Introducing the Thick Burger El Diablo from Carl's Jr. With 4 times the heat, it's the hottest burger in fast food. Warning, do not attempt to eat this burger unless you enjoy the following: crispy swearing, spontaneous profanity, and temporary life addition. With jalapeno poppers, pepper jack cheese, habanero sauce, and sliced jalapenos, all powered on 100% black Angus beef, this Lapa bomb is new.
10 seconds.
Basically, this thing is milk your face off spicy. So try the Thick Burger El Diablo, only at Carl's Jr. We hashtag Diablo Dare You. For limited time, just get around. Available as one half of the comfort burgers.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the show. Again, I'd like to reintroduce this show, brand new show, first day on the Safari Real Estate Show. And I wanted to introduce my producer and also everything else he does, which is amazing. In fact, he created this with the help of my brother who came up with this, the sound ideas. So Chris Singleton, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to try to have a serious show after being spoiled with the dirt all the time. I mean, we're going to try to keep it on a professional level. So, you got to work with me on that.
I'll do my best.
No, it's not you. It's me. I'm so worried about me staying completely professional. But anyway, so our guest, Richard Murphy, he's the president of Premier Equity Partners. And I think he's here with us right now, and I'd like to introduce him.
I'm here. Hi, Lori.
Hi, Richard. Thank you so much for taking your time to be on the show during your nice weekend off. I know lenders are Monday through Friday, right?
Well, some are, I'm sure. This one feels more like days a week sometimes, but when you like what you do, it doesn't really feel too bad.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. And I was teasing because people just really think that, but I mean, any lender that I've ever been working with has been just like that, just really hard worker and everything like that. So I'm excited to have you on the show. I know thank you. And I know you're a nationwide lender. And I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been in the business, what got you in the business, and maybe just some of your personal interests.
Sure, okay, great. Got into the business in 1998 and worked my way up from loan officer to branch manager to production vice president to senior vice president of 2 multi-billion-dollar mortgage companies, and I learned some pretty cool stuff. But what was not fun was the corporate, meetings and then flying here and flying there and more meetings and not really connecting with people anymore. And it frustrated me because one of the things that I enjoy doing most in life is encouraging people and helping them and giving them information that, quite frankly, isn't taught everywhere. And so it wasn't as fun anymore because I wasn't connecting with people. I decided to go out on my own and struck a deal with a federally chartered bank, which allows me to do business nationwide, and there's no corporate nonsense, I suppose I'll call it. I'm enjoying doing what I do and have done for a number of years, and it's really cool because now I get to demyth a lot of the stuff that's out there regarding FICO scores and can I really buy a house, and I'm back to helping people and couldn't be more excited. Now I get to be on your show and hopefully help a few more people. That'll be wonderful.
Well, where are you based out of right now? Where do you live?
I live in the greater Los Angeles area.
Okay, and so how is LA? Have you been there your whole life, or?
No, I'm an expatriate New Yorker. I'm a Brooklyn boy, and I drove cross country in 1995. I thought I was going back east, but when it was February actually of 2004. I'm Irish, so it took me 9 years to figure this out. I took my garbage out in February in a pair of shorts. And it dawned upon me that I was wearing shorts in February, and all of a sudden California wasn't so bad.
I know, it's amazing, our weather. There's just nothing like it,
Right.
I grew up in the Midwest, and I mean, honestly, like, the weather here is just phenomenal, and it's pretty addictive, if you ask me.
Right, yeah, you get used to it. When that paradigm shifted for me, now I like living by the beach if I can. I do presently, and it's wonderful.
That's awesome. And you know what, now I hear your accent. soon as you said that, and I was like, oh yeah, I can hear the New York accent.
Oh,
Or
really?
I'm bad at accents, so I won't try to imitate you, but it's pretty cool.
Well,
So yeah, so basically, what I really was looking for today, which I mean, we spoke on the phone yesterday. It was a really nice conversation, and it's not the first time that we spoke, and I'm looking forward to doing a lot of business with you. And so, welcome to the show and to working together and some endeavors. I'm just really excited. I'm really hoping that you can help people that are like first-time home buyers that maybe don't have any idea of where they need to be at in order to start even considering a home. And not only
Sure.
that, but we are coming out of, and still a lot of people are still in the right in the middle of financial despair, basically. I mean, a lot of people lost their homes. I mean, look at the MLS. What, like 80% of it was either short sales or foreclosures, and so how do people recover from this? I mean, that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about. I mean, for a while there weren't any programs literally out there. It was like everything got taken away because, I mean, with the banks and the homes and everything foreclosing, it's like, okay, they had to tighten everything up in order to try to recover. And here,
Sure.
so many people said, with, okay, now how do I become a homeowner again? What do I need to do? And
Sure.
so, I mean, you're like the first step in getting to that place after they go through those tragedies as far as financial. And then, so, I mean, where would I start? Let's just say I've never owned a home. What would be your first suggestion?
I would say the first thing to do is a little housekeeping. Many people, most people, they're not taught in school about credit. They're just not. And so that would be the first thing I would recommend. People get there, it's free. Get your credit reports, look at it. Many times there are things on people's credit reports that are wrong, and all it is a simple phone call to the creditor. They write the person a letter. That letter then goes into the credit bureaus, TransUnion, Experian, etc., and you can get it removed. Why not be proactive? That's the first thing. And then after that, you got to make sure that you're dealing with a good lender. There are great companies out there, and within the company, you'll have a loan officer who's a rock star, and in that same company, somebody who really should not be doing this for a living. So
Right.
the things to look out for with loan officers who are not technically sound, how would Mr. or Mrs. Homebuyer know that? They've never bought a home before, and they walk into somebody's office and it looks good, and the person is looking, looks professional, but if the loan officer doesn't want to share information, you get more of a don't worry about it, I'll take care of it for you. Don't walk away, run away from people like that, because if they're not going to be transparent and open with you from hi, nice to meet you, they're certainly not going to be so not if, when something goes weird with their loan file. So, if they don't return your phone calls, things like that, basic things you would think professionals would do, many times they don't. So, you've got to know what your credit says about you first so that you're not taken off guard. Act proactively to get some stuff cleaned up or ask for help to get it cleaned up. I would say that would be the first place to start.
I think that's a great place. And not only that, but when somebody looks at their credit score and they're like, hey, I think I'm pretty ready to go. Maybe my scores aren't the highest, or maybe this or that. Sometimes speaking to someone like yourself can be a good advantage, because you would be able to advise them on a few things that they may be able to do in order to get ready within a year or whatever time frame. Like if you can see something that would potentially cause an issue in them getting their financing. Like for instance, maybe somebody who is a waitress or somebody who works on tips or something like that, maybe they've got to claim a little bit higher, even though they've got that income coming in. Oh, hey, why didn't I qualify when I make $3,000 a month? Well, because you're not claiming all of that. Maybe you're only claiming 1,000 of it. You know what I mean? you guys can give people tips on basically how to show their income and what they're going to need to do in order to qualify for the home at the price that they're looking for. And so
Right.
I think it's a great place to start. Just get in contact with somebody, have a conversation, and who knows, maybe they're ready to go right away, maybe not. But either way, just communicating, I think, is key.
Absolutely, sure.
Yeah, and so basically, when we're talking about the FICO scores, are there like minimum scores that we need to look for when getting pre-qualified?
Yes and no. Here's the game that's played. You've got people, if you listen to CNN, they tell you, I've heard them say this, if you don't have 20% down and a 720 FICO score, you're out of luck. You just simply cannot get a loan.
Right.
And it bothers me to hear that kind of information going out to people. It's so, it's just generic. It doesn't apply to everybody. Who in the world, especially these days, has on a $300,000 house, $60,000 sitting around in their bank account, so that and a 720 FICO score. It's easier to get the 720 FICO score than it is to say $60,000 these days. So, unfortunately, there's a lot of information, and they're more scare tactics. I personally try not to watch the news very much because it's another person dead, it's another earthquake, and I feel badly for the people in Nepal, but it's constantly bad news. And I don't want that in my mind, but I still need to know what's going on. So people, they check their credit score, they get it as clean as they can, but maybe there's only a 640 FICO score. And unfortunately, they heard in the news or read in the paper, if anybody reads newspapers anymore, that you have to have a 720 FICO score. Not true. Here's what happens. You've got companies who are, let's say, FHA loans. Half of the market are people buying a home for their first time. Always been like that. I don't imagine that's going to change very much. So 50% of people out there think that, or many of those 50% think that they can't buy a house when they can. So we'll go with FHA financing. That's the loan that most first-time home buyers use. 3.5% down, or $10,500 on that same $300,000 purchase is a whole lot easier to come up with. Plus, I can borrow up to all of it, really, according to HUD guidelines, versus saving $60,000 and it has to be all my money.
Agreed.
Okay, yeah, a little bit different there. So with FHA financing, you've got companies that
Closer to the mic.
and you won't in
Mike.
particular now,
Yeah.
but there are companies who have really big buildings downtown, and there are, everybody knows the blue company, and others know the red company, and there's another one with a Stagecoach, and they all do the same thing. They just take turns doing it. So if they say that you need a 720 FICO score, here's why they say that. They are servicing quite a bit of the loans. Or if they do sell loans to each other, which they do all the time, they've got to be able to sell it. Well, if the other guy says, I'll buy it from you, buddy, but you got to have this type of threshold, oh, okay, well, then I should only have that type of inventory to sell, because if I can't sell it because of perceived risk, then I certainly don't want to service it or collect the mortgage payments on a monthly basis because of the same perceived risk.
Right.
The truth of the matter, and the general population is not being told this, unfortunately, is that according to HUD guidelines say there is no minimum FICO score. 500 FICO score, let's rock and roll. If you meet the guidelines, you meet the guidelines, but people don't want to fund it. Companies don't want to fund those loans because you think that it's a certainty that person with a less than 720, let's even go down to 620 or 580, that person is a bad risk. They're not going to make their mortgage payment. They're probably not even very nice people, and we're not going to give them a loan. But they're directed Ginnie Mae. So they could underwrite according to HUD guidelines, but they don't and won't because of perceived risk. One of the most alluring things to me about this company with whom I've struck a deal is that they are Ginnie Direct, and they do underwrite directly to HUD guidelines.
Richard,
Yes.
I'm sorry to cut you off right here, but we actually have to go to a break.
Okay.
So hold that thought, and when we come back, we'll finish up with that thought.
In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. In the jungle,
As we join Bob, the Mount Shasta Springwater Drop, we find him with new recruits.
Bob is cool and Bob is swell. He didn't come out of a well.
So, do you have what it takes to beat Mount Shasta Springwater?
Yes, sir. I'm pure and natural, sir.
And why are you here?
Because I don't want to be filtered, sir.
All right, Rip, so, Flops, you've got what it takes, so be pure and make America proud.
Bob is cool and he's on top. He's by far the coolest drop. Yes, sir.
Mount Shasta Springwater, pure and simple, naturally the best.
And all American, too.
Do you have some old coins lying around and you wonder what they're worth? Or have you been a coin collector for years? WS Coin in Marysville is the only full-service coin shop in the Yuba Center area and has been in business since the 1970s. We are here to meet your coin collecting needs with a full line of supplies, books, and price guides. And we pay fair prices for your collectible coins and bullion. Stop in at WS Coin at 417 4th Street in Marysville and check out our inventory or see our collection online at wscoin.com. Bring us your silver dollars, old dimes, and quarters and get cash. We also buy your old gold and silver jewelry, and we pay top prices for scrap gold and silver. What are you waiting for? Come on down to WS Coin in Marysville at 417 4th Street. Open Monday through Friday 10 to 5 and Saturday 10 to 3, or see us online anytime at wscoin.com. Order online, pick it up at our shop, and avoid shipping fees. Located at 417 4th Street in Marysville, we are the Yuba Center answer to all your coin and bullion needs.
If you don't like spending an hour on the treadmill every time you enjoy your favorite frap or smoothie, I've got great news for you. This is Rhonda from Free Time Java inside Lakeview Energy Centers in Marysville and now in Yuba City. I want you to enjoy every sip of your favorite Free Time Java drink without any guilt. So, we've brought in delicious, healthy alternatives called Fit, and we are giving $1 off any 16-ounce Fit Frap or Fit Smoothie. These are full-flavored, healthy alternatives. The Fit Fraps are chocolate and vanilla, and they can be used for your favorite drink, and you can add a fruit infusion. It has 21 grams of protein and less than 1 gram of sugar.
You ready?
The Fit Smoothies have less sugar and carbs and all the flavor. Don't rack up extra miles on the treadmill. Come in and enjoy yourself with no guilt.
You ready?
Daily special.
All right, 10 seconds.
Off any 16-ounce Fit Frap or Fit Smoothie is available from both Free Time Java locations on 12th and B Street in Marysville and Colusa Highway next to U-Haul in Yuba City.
Hi everybody, you're listening to the Safari Real Estate Show. And now back to you, Richard.
Okay, great, thanks. Let's see, we were talking about FICO scores and companies funding scores that are lower than what they think for a perceived risk. So the company that I have a deal with, they don't have any minimum FICO score, and very recently, within the last, couple of 3 months, funded a loan with a 511 FICO score. And I shook my head thinking, holy smokes, I cannot imagine some of those companies I mentioned earlier funding a loan with a 511 FICO score. And this is not hard money. I'm not talking about 12% interest rate and 5 points. No, they received a regular FHA loan. Now, because they had a FICO score rather below 580, they had to put 10% down. But guess what? They had the 10% down, their own money. So great.
And
now,
even,
here's another thing.
Well,
Go ahead, sorry.
even at the 580 score, that's really low also. I mean,
It is.
Typically, I would say that most people are not, like, they would not feel that they could get a home unless they have at least a 620 or higher. I mean,
Right.
That's pretty customary for FHA.
Right.
This is awesome.
That's right. Well, there's something called a neighborhood watch. And here's something that the lending people don't really want the general population to know because, oh my gosh, God forbid you know an industry secret. Oh no. So there's a neighborhood watch. Loan officers are tracked. If they do bad business, FHA business, they are going to have a very high neighborhood watch. And how does that happen? That happens from people not making payments either at all, defaulting, or making payments late regularly. Well, that affects the loan officer. That also affects the company. So the company, again, they're at risk. They don't want to service it because if you don't make your payments, my neighborhood watch number goes up. Now my investors, if I'm the Stagecoach company and I'm selling to another bank that is prevalent in America, then they're not going to fund that loan. When in fact, with that 511 FICO score, our underwriter called the borrower. That right there, I got to tell you, Lori, is very, very, in fact, I haven't seen this happen before, where an underwriter, they'll typically talk to the processor who worked on the file in the lender office, or they'll talk to the loan officer, but they don't even like talking to loan officers, generally speaking. So for an underwriter, right, it shocked me, and having been in the business since 1998 to have never seen that before, I about fell off my chair. And the underwriter had a smile on her face, by the way. So she called the borrower, had a conversation, because with 511 FICO score, wanted to make sure that information was obtained directly from that person, not a letter written by the loan officer, signed by the borrower, explaining things nicely, like the loan officer knows the underwriter wants to see. No, the underwriter got the information firsthand and then determined that it was an explainable credit event and approved that loan. The person had 10% down, and they funded the loan, and then they're collecting the payments on it or servicing it. Now, we are also aware of the neighborhood watch. Obviously, I don't want my individual neighborhood watch number going up. It's never been above 100. It's never been above 60. I don't do bad loans, and here's why. I set proper expectations, my company sets proper expectations, and when Joe or Susie know what's going on and they feel comfortable, because they know you're not lying to them, you're looking at them right in the eye, you're showing them rate sheets, showing them guidelines, and now they don't have to wonder if somebody's telling them the truth or not. Confidence is built and a relationship is the result, and it's fantastic. So here's what we do. We got to educate that person with the 511, 611, 711. You got to educate people. In doing that, then we wanted to make sure that we protect our neighborhood watch number. Gosh, we're not silly. We're not in business to simply go out of business. So here's what we do. We do two things. One, at our expense, we provide 24 months of counseling. So on the first of every month, Mr. and Mrs. Homebuyer receive a phone call from us. This is a teamwork effort, so they see us as being on their team. We're not a threat. We're not trying to take your house. Every month, we're going to give you a call. Payment was due on the 1st, not the 10th. Have you made your payment? Yes or no? Make your payment. So we want to make sure that we're on top of that. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Homebuyer, you said you were going to buy a washer and dryer in the 3rd month. Today, it's the 4th month now. Did you buy that washer and dryer? You said, oh, great. And it was Susie's birthday or the soccer game or something, and a relationship is built over 24 months. If the homeowner is having problems, tell us. And we're not going to go out there and put this on every billboard in America, but the foreclosure process is very expensive. Nobody wants to go through it. We don't want to go through it. If Mr. and Mrs. Jones is having a hard time, there's a relationship, there's communication, we've been making phone calls, but nobody can predict the future. In month number 7, Mr. Jones had lost his job. Okay, we would rather make a payment or two for Mr. Jones than to come in and quickly seize his house. We want Mr. Jones and his family to stay in his house. We're even willing to put our money where our mouth is and make a payment or two, because the other thing that we do, in addition to the counseling, something that they probably never received before, is we throw insurance on that loan. Now, an FHA loan, we've got to make the payments, no matter what. Payments have to be made. So if Mr. Jones doesn't make them, we make them. We file a claim, but it takes a long time to get that money from the insurance claim. That insurance policy, by the way, is also at our expense. So we're not jacking up Mr. Jones' rate from market right now on an FHA, depending on where you are in the country. Let's just use a really safe number, 3.5, 3.75. It's going to be right around there. We're not looking at 6% interest rates. They're probably going to be around 4, maybe 4.25. But let's keep things in perspective. A 511 FICO score is now living in a home instead of throwing his money away renting in an apartment.
You know, it's amazing, and that's such diligent work on your part, of your company's part. It's amazing. I can't believe that you go in and you follow up so closely. I mean, a lot of people never even really meet their lender. I'm just going to be honest, they just don't, you know? And so I think I agree with you. I think the relationships that you're building, I mean, I can see why you're a nationwide company. I mean, it makes sense. And what's really cool is you being a nationwide company, if they relocate into another state or whatever, they're not losing the relationship that they built with somebody like you or your company.
That's right.
You know, I think
Yeah,
that's so
great
great.
point. Great point.
One thing I was going to ask you too now, people who went through a foreclosure, so we've kind of covered the first time home buyer, but what about somebody who actually went and lost their home or, you know, had a short sale or something like that? You were saying that there are some programs out there, and I'll let you say it because I mean it's incredible, like what you're about to say. I mean, for these people, there's a lot of hope, a lot more hope than they think with that 2-year standard bracket that people were like waiting out in order to get into another home.
Absolutely, that's right. So if it was a foreclosure, that would typically be a 3-year process if you're using Fannie Mae financing. What does that mean? That means that you're putting at least 5% down, up to 20% down, versus an FHA or government loan. When in fact HUD says you can buy a house one day after foreclosure, one day for the short sale. You know, a lot of people say, I was never foreclosed on it. I short sold my home. Look, as soon as you hit 90 days late, in their minds, that's a foreclosure. Maybe they didn't come and take your house, but because you were 90 days past due, that is what triggers foreclosure, that terminology. So yeah, technically it was a short sale. In actuality, that's a foreclosure. The process began, and because that process began, you got foreclosure all over your credit report. That's what it looks like, even if the word isn't there. 90 days foreclosure, even though it's a short sale. Anyway, you can buy a house one day after a short sale, but there's always, you know, ifs, ands, or buts to anything, and certainly in a situation like that, with HUD says you can do it one day after a short sale. Great. If, and this is critical, you had a drop in income of 20%, and you can document that. Most people can't because they short sold their home because they realize, hey, I'm underwater, meaning my house is worth less than what I owe on it. I'm not going to make any payments anymore, and they live there for a year or more. They don't make any payments. Unfortunately, they don't save that money either. They think that's disposable income, and it's not. And they're not going to be able to buy one day after short sale because they didn't really have a drop in income. They just said, forget it, we're going to party like rock stars and use this money to go on, you know, Vegas trips, etc. And they're not eligible. But there are other people who say, wait a second, I lost my job, or household income dropped 20% because my wife lost her job, my husband lost her job. There was only one income. We can prove all of that. Great, let's go. We can get you back into a home, no problem. So there are lots of options for people if somebody would just pull the darn curtain back and tell them the truth.
Right, and the thing is, like, when you're looking at somebody in that kind of a situation, it was kind of out of their hands. I mean, life happens sometimes.
Sure.
You know? And so it's kind of great to know that they actually can go ahead and get into another home and not be throwing their money away on rentals. And not only that, but you can't usually settle into a home without feeling like, hey, this landlord might or might not sell their home or lease their home or whatever's going on with that. So there is a greater level of security in owning your own place.
I couldn't agree more. Great point.
Yeah. So so basically, when you're talking about the FICO scores and you know, people purchasing like below the 620 score and people getting into homes after foreclosures, this isn't including like somebody who wants to go out and take advantage of this great market and have, like, let's say, an investment property. What are some of the standards that somebody has to, or what are some of the things that you have to be able to qualify for in order to own a second home in this market? I mean, the market's still low. We've got so much, you know, so many more different programs out there for people who are looking for financing. I mean, do you have anything that, you know, for an investor that's just starting out?
Sure. Great question. And a lot of people don't know that, you know, if it's an investment where, let's say I'm the buyer and I want to buy these 4 units. I'll live in the big house in the front and I'll rent out the 3 units in the back. That is, by some accounts, an investment purchase because you're going to have rent income. A lot of people think, gosh, well, the payment on that 4-unit property is, let's just say arbitrarily, $4,000 a month. I can only afford $2,500. But they can still buy because what they don't know is that they get to use a very high percent, I believe it's 90% of the rents to help qualify. So even though they don't have that money, let's say the rent on each of those three places, 3 units in the back was $1,000 each. There's $3,000, 90% of which is $2,700. Now they have an extra $2,700 a month added to their actual monthly income, and they're qualifying for a place that's way too expensive. If it was a single house, they would never qualify for it.
Yeah.
So there's that type of investment property. Is that the one you were talking about? Or do you mean
Yeah,
people
that's
buying?
that's one of them. I mean, just somebody for, getting some ideas and like investing in this great market. I mean, we
Sure.
still have really low prices. We still have low rates. I mean, and now there's more programs out there where you don't have to have as much money down now. And something like that, what would people be looking at for their down payment?
If it's a
If they're gonna
situation
live
like
there.
that, then you gotta have, there are always niche programs. So I've seen people say you only need 10% down. Generally speaking, it's 20 to 30% down for
Okay.
non-owner occupied or you ain't gonna live there properties.
Mhm. But if they were going to live in one of the units, would they be able to qualify for lesser down?
Less down, yes, because now it's owner occupied. They're actually going to live there, and because inventory is low, there are two things that are in play here. Another thing that isn't discussed, unfortunately. When you have historically, if you look at the history of real estate, you've got low prices, high risks.
Mm-hmm.
When in the 1970s, okay, the house only cost $30,000, but the interest rate was 19%. People bought houses anyway. Usually, that's the relationship. You got lower prices, higher rates. Never, ever, 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 ever in the history of real estate in the United States have we had low rates and low prices. Now, prices have been going up steadily over the last year or so. That's great. The rates are still low. And so one of the arguments or objections I hear from people who come into my office or loan officers who tell me what they've been through is they say, the prospective home buyer, I'm going to wait because prices are going to come back down and then I'm going to score that $350,000 house for $300,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's a bad strategy, and here's why. The chances of you, the home buyer, again having in history low price, low rate at the same time, I'd say slim since we have hundreds of years of history and this is the first time it's ever happened. So, what they don't know and nobody's calculating it for them is, let's say you've got $350,000 sales price and a 4% interest rate. I know rates are not that high, but I'm using the numbers for illustrative purposes. They actually get the house at $300,000. They waited it out and they were diligent, right? They found that deal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but now rates are 5%. There should be no happy dance by that home buyer that they now saved $50,000 on the sales price because the interest rate difference of 4 and 5% over the 30 years they're going to make that payment. There's a reason why they have big buildings downtown. People finance it. I'll give you 1% back on your Visa purchase. Oh, thanks. But we're charging you 19.99. And people think that they just got a great deal. Well, you're losing money, but they make you feel good about losing money because you're not educated. Same thing with the mortgage. You're not educated. You think that you came up and you've really done an exceptional job when in fact you have lost tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years.
I know, and it's about the bottom line. I mean, you really have to do the math and decide where is it that I'm going to be saving cash in my pocket.
That's right.
You know, and can I get positive cash flow? Can I make it work with this job or whatever? It's about the whole scenario. And right now we are in a really unique and awesome market. And so if we've sparked any interest to any of the listeners out there to possibly see if you can get pre-qualified or, if you want to invest in something new, how can anybody get a hold of you, Richard?
My office number, direct number is area code 424-241-2770. And to start things off, that's the best way to catch up to me. That number will forward to my cell phone. If I'm out of the office, I pick up whenever I can because I like what I do, and I just like helping people. Even if they don't use me, I still want to educate them so that they don't get fooled by another loan officer who doesn't explain things properly. May I make one other quick point? Do we have time for that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so here's strategy. You've got two categories of people, generally speaking. You've got financially illiterate people. Here's what they do. This is what I used to do because my parents didn't know any better. I had to learn a lot of stuff the hard way, and I like sharing it with people. So financially illiterate people, they get their money, they buy stuff that depreciates, like a car, use the rest of their money to pay their bills, and they take vacations. They're broke. They're always going to be broke, and they better be very, very afraid when they go into retirement. So that's also unemployment, and unless you're set up the right way, you're going to be trying to get a job at McDonald's when you're 72 years old, and that should scare the life out of you. Here's the other category of person, financially intelligent person. They buy things that make money so that they can buy more stuff. So nothing wrong with having a car. You know, if you're in California, New York, I didn't need a car. California, I got to have a car. Nothing wrong with having a car. So I can either buy the car or I can buy a laundromat. That laundromat nets me $4,000 a month and more than pays for my car. So financially literate people, financially intelligent people are looking to buy stuff. So let's take that to the housing industry, because who's got 100 or 500,000 depending on the laundromat? We're going to do that, and it was just an arbitrary example. So let's keep it in the real estate industry. I want to buy a house. Great. Okay. And I'm going to use my money to make the mortgage, and in 30 years, that's going to be my house. The challenge is that the $300,000 house is paid $1 million for, and that's why big banks love you, because you pay for their big buildings and big bonuses, etc. Stop insanity. Don't do that. Buy a 4-unit place, use other people's rental money as qualifying to get you into that place, and now you got into a place that is going to make you money over the next 30 years. Use a portion of that to pay the mortgage down. If you make just one extra mortgage payment annually, you'll pay that mortgage off in about 23 years instead of 30. So what if you start doing that 2 or 3 times a year?
Exactly.
You can have your mortgage paid off in 15 to 18 years. That's smart, and buy other property that makes you money, because never, ever, want to sell your real estate in this cash flow.
Exactly. So, with that thought and that note in mind, everybody who's listening, one more time, how can we get a hold of you, Richard?
Oh, thanks. Phone number is area code 424-241-2770.
All right, awesome. And I want to thank you very much for being on the show today. It was my pleasure, and I hope to have you on again very soon.
I'll look forward to it. Thank you, friend.
All right, you have a wonderful weekend, and thank you everybody for tuning in to the Safari Real Estate Show and our guest, Richard Murphy. When we come back, I'm going to give you our featured property, and then we're going to close out for the day, so stay tuned.
Richard, you still there? All right. Hey, thanks, man. Good job. You too.
Have you ever tried to
Bye.
repair your own plumbing problem? It starts with a faucet washer, ends up with an appointment for a permit with the city, and an EPA study to reroute your plumbing through South Carolina. Or how about the plumber that says, oh, this is going to cost you a little more than I thought. We got 7 guys out here on overtime. How about this one? It's going to take a little longer than I expected, so maybe you folks could get a hotel for a while. That is not a feel-good plumbing experience. Well, it's time to call the plumbing doctor. They charge by the job and not by the hour, and their in-home estimates are totally free. They have menu pricing, so you know the true cost right from the start. They have a high-quality line of green products, fully stocked service trucks, and uniformed professional technicians. Now that sounds like a feel-good plumbing experience. The Plumbing Doctor. Give them a call at 671-9191.
That's out of the question.
Go online at plumbingmd.com.
Did you hear him? He referred to to the woman inside of himself in the third person. Like, she lives inside of me, is what he said. You know what? You do what makes you happy, right? Whatever makes you happy, you know? Yeah.
It's so effective, we challenge you to try it for 5 minutes to see
Yeah.
how white your smile could be. If lines are busy, try again. Dial 1-800-663-5922. That's 1-800-663-5922.
30 seconds.
1-800-663-5922.
America was built by people with a few dollars and a dream. And while many don't know it, there's one path to success that still only requires a dream and about $10. That's right. If your dream is start or grow your business, something as simple as the right business card could make all the difference. And today at Vistaprint.com, you can get 500 full-color business cards for only $9.99. That's right, only $9.99. Just go to Vistaprint.com and enter promo code 4433 at checkout. That's Vistaprint.com, promo code 4433.
Hi everybody. Again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Safari Real Estate Show. And Chris, thank you very much for producing it for me. I really appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. Also, Richard Murphy, our guest, thank you again for being on our show today. It was a pleasure and very informative. He's a great guest to have. Now, this segment of my show, I'd like to talk about a featured listing.
4 minutes.
And so I just wanted to ask you, Chris, how would you like to own a piece of property that's 1,700 acres,
Ooh.
has views of all the Sierras, just like anywhere, just panoramic,
No, that sounds terrible.
and 2.5 miles of shoreline.
Wow, that sounds like a really beautiful place.
It is, and
Yeah.
oak trees. It has natural springs
Mm-hmm.
and everything. And we're talking, they're selling all 4 parcels, but together it's 1,700 acres, and we're looking at only $4.6 million.
Wow.
I know that sounds like a lot in a way, like when you first say it, but like really, it's already zoned, cluster zoned, and that means you can go in and start building on 50-acre parcels. I mean, you could start going right in, and if you think about it, it's lake frontage. Lake Englebright is beautiful. It's only 20 minutes from Marysville. And the opportunities there. You could run cattle. You could, right now, the owner, he would fly in. There's a place to land their plane. You can hunt if you want. I'm not saying like people want to hunt or not hunt. I'm not like being pro either way. But the thing is, there's bear, there's deer. I saw, what are those little bobcats? And there's mountain lions too, but those little bobcat things, I saw those there.
Okay.
There's literally so many animals there, and the lake is beautiful. This is one of the only lakes where you can literally build all the way up to the shoreline. Most places,
Cool.
like even Camp Far West Lake, not begging on that because I love that place. There's like 120 approximately, so anybody listening and calculating, but it's approximately 120 feet setback for building. This you can build right up to the shore. You could have those retractable docks and everything else. This place, it could be great for a winery, and that's why I was wanting to talk to Mike, the wine guy, because like if he has anybody who's looking to expand their vineyards or anything like that. I mean, it's a gorgeous place. It's already, it's 4 parcels, so we are selling them individually. Some are like $1 million.
I just did some math. That's about $200 an acre.
No, soon to be like 2,000.
Is it? Did I do my math wrong?
You might have, but either way, it is very low. When you think about it, I mean, some of the homes, let's just say you live in a subdivision just down in Folsom or El Dorado Hills, you're looking at some of these homes with just a lot and a pool and possibly a slight view, and you're looking at over $1 million, if not more, for some of these homes. And here, you could go in and build, a ton of homes. And
A subdivision, yeah.
Yeah, you could. Or, even, there's just so many ideas that you could have up there. It's just so private and great and not that far away from everything. So anyway, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Safari Real Estate Show. I appreciate all of the listeners. I'm going to be trying to bring in a lot of education as far as real estate. And so everybody stay tuned. We'll be back next week from 4 to 5 p.m. on Saturday. Thank you.
the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. In the jungle, the quiet jungle, the lion sleeps
This is Truth Broadcasting's Talk Radio 1410, KMYC, Marysville, Roseville, Yuba City. Yahoo Sports continues after a live update from Fox News.
Fox News Radio, I'm Joe Giro. Nepal struck by one of the strongest earthquakes ever in the region, killing more than 1,300, decimating the capital.
This 7.8 tremor hit an area between the capital Kathmandu and the city of Pokhara. It was felt across the region, and there were some fatalities in neighboring countries. A Nepali government minister has described massive damage at the epicenter. Most of those confirmed to have died so far within the Kathmandu Valley and the capital. The search is continuing through the night in Kathmandu for people trapped beneath erupting and fallen buildings. Many people are sleeping on the streets in the capital because of the fear of more aftershocks.
Positive quake also triggering an avalanche on Mount Everest. Several people were killed, including a Google executive. U.S. and other nations pledging their support for covering reconstruction efforts. Hundreds of protesters in downtown Baltimore. Around the protest the death of Freddie Gray, who died in police custody after suffering an unexplained spinal injury.
And before I got there, well, 2 days prior,
So those people, she starts obviously, and I'm not sure my sister probably is listening to this. Zach.
So you got one more minute.
Oh my gosh.